And we're live.
Good morning. Welcome to our Municipal Council agenda for Tuesday, February the 1st, 2022. I'd like to call this meeting to order at this time and ask if there's any declarations of interest. Not seeing any, I will move to our land acknowledgement statement. The town of Squillenbury recognizes and acknowledges the lands originally used and occupied by the First Peoples of the Williams Treaty First Nations and other Indigenous peoples. On behalf of the Mayor and Council, we would like to thank them for sharing this land. We would also like to acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation as our closest First Nation community and recognize the unique relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and the waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and we join them in this responsibility. I am down to community announcements. I have a few to share, beginning with the character community attribute for February, which is initiative. I will recognize what needs to be done and do it without prompting from others. And I'd like to share a quote: thinking is easy, acting is difficult. To put one's thoughts into actions is the most difficult thing in the world. Today, February 1st, marks the official beginning of the 2022 Chinese New Year, the year of the tiger. Happy New Year to all those who celebrate, and I will extend our best wishes for love, luck, and good health. Kang He Fa Choi. And today and throughout the month of February, we celebrate Black History Month. To commemorate this month, tomorrow morning at 11:30, joined by members of Newmarket African Caribbean Canadian Association, we will raise the Pan-African flag on our community flagpole at the Civic Center. Many events and activities are planned throughout the month to honor the legacy of Black Canadians and in their community. Please visit the town website for more information. That concludes my announcements. Are there any announcements from members of council? I'm not seeing any at this time, so we will move along to item E, and that is COVID-19 update. And I would call on staff to bring us an update, please.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, members of council, and others who have joined us today. As we start having some favorable news regarding COVID and recovery, I will pass it on to Deputy CAO Velchich, who heads up with Chief McKenzie, our town recovery initiative. And Mr. Velchich has a brief comments to make today, as well as General Manager Karmazin. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. Madam Mayor, through you. Very self-explanatory update again. I think speaks for itself, but I do want to just highlight a couple of key points. Really nice to see that we're back into a phase of gradual relaxation of restrictions. We're hoping that that continues in that direction. And you can see in the memo, there's really three key dates. One was yesterday, and we saw yesterday the beginning of some relaxed restrictions, including access to restaurants and gyms and that sort of thing again, which is nice to see people being able to get out and connect in person. I had the opportunity to take advantage of that myself yesterday with Councillor Martin. We were meeting on a couple of things, and it was nice to be able to meet in person. So we also, in tandem with that, as you know, we have a framework, a risk-based framework for kind of relaxing and contracting our programs and services at the town. So pleased to report that effective yesterday, we've resumed unrestricted access to our civic center, and we've reopened our recreation facilities with some programming consistent with the regulations as they sit. So with that, Madam Mayor, I would just ask Mr. Karmazin maybe just to give us a brief update, because I know this is an area that is very important to us and to our residents to have access to the programs and services offered through Mr. Karmazin's area. So I'll turn it over to him just for a little bit of an update on where we're at effective yesterday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Through you, Madam Mayor, staff's pleased to announce that effective Monday at midnight, provincial regs permitted the community centers to reopen. And of note are the occupancy limits have been adjusted to approximately 50% of their normal occupancy limits. And CPR staff are adhering to obviously all the health and safety measures that are in place as well. So that would be checking for vaccinations at the front door, and with each of the registered programs and permits that are in the facility as well. The memo also highlights some information related to some special events that are upcoming, including our Family Fun Day, which is again adhering to all health and safety measures in compliance with the provincial regulations, and as well in close planning efforts with our partners at Region Public Health. So I'd be happy to answer any questions related to any of the reopening of recreation centers, programs, and permits that the council may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Karmazin. Questions? Councillor Crothers, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I'm not sure if this is just for Mr. Karmazin. I want to know about masks for our staff. We're hearing a lot on the news about getting away from cloth masks and using medical grade KN95s or N95s. I just want to know if we've been able to supply those to our staff who have to interact with the public.
Madam Mayor, through you, we have through our health and safety coordinator, Chris McPherson, we have ordered masks that comply with the current regulations, and those are being made available to staff in carrying out of their duties.
And are those N95s or KN95s? What level are we giving our staff?
They are not N95s, but they're not the traditional cloth masks. They're a multi-layered fabric mask that meets the current regulatory minimum.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of Mr. Karmazin or Mr. Velchik? Go ahead, Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, just further to Councillor Carruthers' question, it's one thing for us to provide something that meets the minimum. I think where Councillor Carruthers was going, and where I'd like to see us go, is exceeding that minimum and ensuring that it's well known and it's been well documented that we need to change up our mask game. And in making sure, yes, there is an expense associated with it, but if these are staff who are facing the public, whether it's at a community center, or it's at our library, or at the customer service desk, that they have the N95, N94 respirator type, whatever it is, that we are exceeding what is the minimum being told by public health. I think that's where I'd like to go anyway, and I'd like some assurances that that we are exceeding what is being suggested. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, my apologies. I didn't want to give the impression that we were driving to the minimum. That's in fact not at all what we're doing. We've met or exceeded the regulatory requirements throughout this pandemic. We've had an outstanding track record at our facilities in sort of ensuring that they in fact have been safe, and not just in our facilities, but for folks that are out, staff that are out in corporate vehicles, that are out in the field delivering programs and services. So if I gave the impression we were driving to the minimum, I want to correct that. We will make sure that our staff are kept in the very best position possible to remain healthy and safe as they deliver programs and services to our residents. And thank you for helping me clarify that.
Any other questions? Councillor Persichini, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wondering, what sort of plan are we having to get back in the chamber office? That we're sort of looking into, since things are starting to get a little bit better. What sort of plan do we have in the next 6 to 10 weeks going and back into the chamber?
Madam Mayor, through you, originally we were hoping for getting back into the chamber at least partially for in the month of February for a workshop. However, clearly that wasn't possible with the way this fourth wave has evolved. Our position remains consistent with what it was from the beginning. As soon as we're able to get back into the chamber without the need for significant PPE, for example, we don't think it's appropriate to get back in the chamber and have council members required to wear masks and goggles. It's probably not an indication it's the right time. And the second factor is we would like to make sure that when we get back into the chamber, there isn't a requirement for significant physical alterations to the facility. So you'll see in some organizations, they're back, but they've got, you know, kind of almost like plexiglass cubicles around every individual. And we just didn't believe that that was, you know, appropriate timing. So once we can minimize PPE requirement, minimize physical alterations, and have it appear a little bit more, I don't know what the word is. I know normal is not the word because we're into a new or next normal, but as we can look a little bit more like we're not sort of, you know, having to protect ourselves from people that are, you know, 3 or 4 feet away, and we're feeling a sense of a little bit more being able to be healthy and safe in that environment, we will be expediting that as soon as that is possible.
Thank you, Mr. Belchick.
Are there other questions? I'm not seeing any at this time. Thank you very much, Mr. Velchik. Very complete. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Persicini, Councillor Crothers. Be it resolved that administration memorandum dated February 1st, 2022, entitled COVID-19 Update 2022-02 be received. All those in favor? And that's carried. I am at deputations, and at this time we do not have any deputations. And our next item is item G, presentations, and I believe we are also going to be joined by MP Tony Van Byn for this portion of the presentation. With that, we will move to our presentation.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the presenter for today's presentation is Richard Aubry from Redwood Properties. I believe we have Richard on the call. Richard, I will pull up the slides on the screen and you may unmute.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome. Nice to have you with us today.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, Council, and staff for giving me this time to present our very exciting plan that we have for East Gwillimbury, specifically the Yonge and Green Lane area. So on that event, I will continue. So again, my name is Richard Aubry, and I'm here representing Redwood Properties. We are a local builder and developer who've been active in the Newmarket and East Gwillimbury area for over 40 years. We build homes, apartment buildings, and also some retail commercial properties as well. We are here to present our master plan community presentation for this area. It is a very ambitious plan, and I'm going to try to get it all in 10 minutes. That might be a little hard because there's a lot to cover, so be glad to answer any questions following the presentation if I'm a little vague or I didn't cover some areas effectively enough. We are here to support our community plan design application and to hopefully gain council endorsement for not only the development as a concept, but also the infrastructural systems that we are proposing. On that note, we can start the next slide, please. So this is an overview from the south looking into kind of the boundary of Newmarket and East Gwillimbury. The site that we're referring to is highlighted in blue. It is a 150-acre property that is currently an active agricultural use. It is within the Yonge and Green Lane secondary plan area, and it should be of note that our proposition is consistent with that secondary plan approval that was done a few years ago and the official plan. So we are complying and just evolving that planning phase. From this aerial view, you can see where it is in relation to the more traditionally built environment to the south, the single-family home development and the retail commercial spines of Yonge Street and Green Lane. Also close to Georgina and Lake Simcoe, so it's kind of on a threshold from the urban built environment to a very naturalized area, and you get to see how green East Gwillimbury is and how much fantastic ecological space there is within this zone. So we're here to talk about that specific land, piece of land right now. So if we go to the next slide, you'll see what we're proposing here. So our vision is an ambitious one where we're going to take it's more of a transitional space from Yonge Street, which is very urbanized, and following down the hill to the ravine into an ecological area, the natural heritage zones. And we are going to create an urban village, a truly livable community focused on recreational, social, and personal wellness, centered on a cultural food market and market square that'll be integrated into highest quality public spaces. And you can see here our principles and guiding innovative concepts here of dynamic and active living, health and wellness, connections to nature, economic growth, trying to create this as a destination for short and long-term economic job creation, sustainability, where we are going to be creating a truly sustainable, low carbon footprint, self-sustaining infrastructural using urban agricultural, integrated into the recreational and transportation network, creating a multimodal options for connectivity, health, and resilient environment that leverages technology to improve the quality of life of its residents. Next slide, please. So this is a view, we call an axonometric view of the development area from the southeast looking to the northwest. So the far end there is Yonge Street. So you can see it's largely a residential development, a large number of potential units. Here we're trying to create a large variety of types of units and types of ownership. So there'll be large units for families and seniors, live-work buildings, more affordable sized units as well, both in the rental and condo world. Mostly rental, but there'll be opportunities here for market condos as well. Next slide, please. All of this will sit on top of a very dynamic retail and mixed-use program, creating an immersive retail experience. So the first floor and 2 are going to have a variety of different commercial and retail uses, from food and beverage, health and wellness, institutional and educational opportunities as well. So this will all be retail that supports the idea of the wellness program and quality of life, both in the kind of food and beverage and retail environments. There's a large variety, over 250,000 square feet of this retail commercial, and it's all centered at the heart, which is the market square, which I'll get to in a moment, which is that cultural food and market building and public space. Next slide, please. We've broken this down into what we call character districts. The purpose of this is that the physical environment, the natural context around it, and the type of residential and the type of commercial retail change as it goes through the site. So as you move from Yonge Street down into the ravine, the nature and qualities of these environments and little neighborhoods shift, but they're all centered around that public pedestrian spine right through the middle of it. So the next number of slides are going to show each one of these character districts, starting with Yonge Street and moving down, to show what it would look like, what the purpose is, what the type of residential is, and the type of retail that you'll see in the public spaces. So next slide here, we start with the Yonge Street welcome, this is a view from Yonge Street looking to the east down into the background there. You can see the Market Square building. So this will have our largest buildings, the tallest buildings, 20-25 stories, and parking podiums. A lot of the parking will be above grade, but they'll be wrapped in retail, commercial, and topped with landscaped outdoor recreational podium space, amenity space rather. And including what you'll see in this rendering is large-scale greenhouses for urban agricultural uses to support the retail and residential uses. The public space between the buildings are going to be, in this area, is going to be very active, dynamic, larger scale retail, a lot of patios, restaurants, stages for performance. This will be a very active, dynamic environment, exciting. at the top, and then as it goes down into the valley, it changes nature a little bit, and you'll see that as it then relaxes a bit. The next slide, please. The next stage is the Market Square. This building here is a smaller scale building, smaller in height, and they're shaped in such a way to allow this indoor farmers market to span between the buildings and stops on the south side to create a public square. So this will be a year-round indoor-outdoor market to be able to expand in the summer months to the outside. You'll also see on the left-hand side there, we're proposing a small transit node to connect this to local and regional transit, creating bike parking and so on. But this will be a market that will support local businesses, growers, craftspeople, and so on. Really creating a local hub of economic activity, supporting some of the rich diversity of agriculture and makers that we have in the community. Next slide. Dealing with grade here, the upper square is about 2 stories above that. And this part of it is going to be an area that's a little more relaxed, a little less dynamic as from the Yonge Street, but still very exciting and more family oriented, more relaxed, smaller type retailers like bakeries and cafes and so on. But we're trying to create an environment that is very inviting throughout the year, not just on a nice warm Saturday in the summer, but throughout the year, like a day like today, that people can enjoy the outdoor spaces between the buildings and create a supportive area for the community. Next slide, please. As we move down into the valley, we're getting close to a lake that we're going to be creating for a variety of purposes, but utilizing the topography, so roofs become ground plane, it becomes more vegetative in terms of the amount of foliage, the spaces become a little more intimate and supportive of different types of retail. This could be more agricultural based. You can see on the roof there, we're proposing animal husbandry and vineyards and outdoor growing for that urban agricultural aspect that's going to be supportive of the entire community and its vision. Next slide, please. The last district that we're going to be showing is the Lake District. This is where all the stormwater and sanitary will collect into create a new ecosystem. We are proposing in this development a private sanitary filtration system utilizing Canadian technology. This is becoming more and more common in the province, where we actually can filter the sanitary discharge into clean potable water that we can reuse for a variety of different purposes, purple pipe concepts and beyond. And this is an amazing technology. I have an example of it at the last slide, but we're proposing that a building such as the one on the kind of middle left will be the treatment facility that will engage the public. This is not something we're trying to hide. We're bringing it forward, and so people can see exactly how it's done. This is quite an amazing technology. It's something similar to the Upper York. We are proposing this because the future of Upper York is a little uncertain right now, that the development of that filtration system has been put on pause, and development is being hindered currently as a result. So I think the province and everybody's looking for innovative solutions, and we think we have found one. So this is the proposition here. So it creates a clean ecosystem lake and a reuse opportunity for all sorts of different activities, including the urban agricultural component that we've been talking about. Next slide. This shows the integrative approach of our sustainability concept here, from everything with green roofs, where we actually have more vegetative year-round greenery on the site post-development than it currently sits as a farm, which is interesting. We are proposing potential district energy options, privatized infrastructural systems throughout when it comes to power and filtration and stormwater. Also looking at connecting to transit mobility hubs, network of the recreational trail system. We're investigating a variety of varieties, including a collective garbage system where we have a single point of access for all the garbage, so that there's not a lot of garbage trucks running around the site, and every building doesn't need their own ugly loading dock and garbage collection facility to create a very clean environment. In order to do so, almost everything you see here will be part of the private public realm. So it'll be owned and operated by us, and maintained throughout to create a highest quality of the public spaces in the streets possible, including the infrastructural support systems. Next slide, please. So coming back to the aerial view, you can see right in the foreground there is that cultural food market hub between the two mid-rise buildings and the public square on the south side. On the left of that toward Yonge Street, you'll see the higher buildings with the rooftop podiums and greenhouse agriculture. To the right of that, you'll see the rooftop agriculture leading down into that lake environment and into the valley. So the last slide I have is an example of how the decentralized private infrastructural system related to sanitary treatment is being proposed. This is an example site in Ontario. It's recently completed. It's in outside of London, Ontario, St. Thomas. It is to support a 500 home community. And you can see in this building, it's a very simple shipping container concept. But the technology is phenomenal, very inventive, very, I think, forward-thinking. There's no odor. The discharge is minimal and reusable, and the water, when completed, is allowed to go into the natural water system. Is that clean? This is a perfect example. This type of system can be built in a purpose-built building. It could be done in containers like this. It can be discrete. It could be indoor. There's a lot of variety of options available, but it is a fascinating technology that's being utilized more and more across the province and the world. That completes my presentation. Hopefully I've done so in time, and I'd be glad to answer any questions or go into any further detail if I've missed anything or I rushed over something that you'd like to revisit.
Thank you, Mr. Aubry. Very exciting presentation. Thank you. Questions of Mr. Aubry? Councillor Crone, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to Mr. Aubry. Thank you very much for your presentation. This is probably one of the most ambitious, if not, maybe the better word is audacious, concepts that we've seen presented to this term of council. And it's all very exciting, and I know it's not going to happen overnight, but from my perspective, this whole project, this concept hinges on whether or not you can get the wastewater treatment portion of it approved through the Ministry of the Environment. How have you been having conversations with them now to get a sense of where their mindset is at? What can you tell us to maybe give us a hint of where you see this going with the approval process with the ministry?
Thank you, Councillor Crone. That's exactly the heart of our current challenge. If the sanitary capacity was available, we'd be moving to the later stages of approval through rezoning and site plan approval and building permit. But the sanitary capacity is the prevailing issue, as everybody here is familiar with. We have been in talks with engineers, people of the province, the region, and the town of East Gwillimbury to review this concept and its approvability. We do believe it's very approvable. The timing seems to be correct in terms of the technology and the examples of other sites being approved, and the fact that this type of innovation is exactly what different layers of the government are looking for in terms of getting these projects and development underway. So yes, we are going to need endorsement from town council, and then we'll go to the region for their review and endorsement, and then together go to the province for the Ministry of Environment for their approval.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for that. I think it's interesting that you're coming forward with such an innovative approach. It speaks to the need that the province has kind of left us in the lurch at the moment with regards to the Upper York sewage solution. So we need to have those innovative proposals put forward, and I hope that they will look at that in light of where they have stymied us. Just one follow-up question, or another question. The target market you see for getting an apartment or a condo in this Is it, are you in the affordable space? Is it the high end? Who's your target market for who would buy or rent in this development?
I'd be glad to answer this.
Thank you.
And just going back quickly, one other point of note for the sanitary is that traditionally the developments that have been approved, or the engineering propositions that have been approved, largely see the discharge water go directly into a local water system. Very few are proposing the reuse that we are. So that's an important component, which we think will help aid our approval, because that's even more innovative. And will also lighten our demand on the domestic load, the domestic water supply side, because of the reuse. So it's a balanced approach. To your second question regarding who our target demographic is, in short, it's everyone. We're trying to make this for an entire sustainable variety community. This is not trying to come a monoculture of one demographic or another. We definitely see this being successful only if we are inclusive of all different economic and age demographics, supporting jobs and supporting quality of life living, quality outdoor space. So that will include, young professionals, young families, retirees, and seniors, everybody in between. And whether they're looking for a for sale condo as an investment, or they're looking to downsize, or a leg up to start, live work opportunities, and so on. We see a whole well-rounded approach here, and that's critical to our success, I think, long term.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No further questions.
Councillor Persichini, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To you, Mr. Richard Aubry. Very good presentation, since we have looked at it already before. The question I have on the sanitation area, will it be able to just sustain your whole area that you showed us, or this goes beyond that? People could hook up on, say East Gorhambury wanted to hook up and do some more development. Could we hook up, or is that just sustainable just for this project only? I know it'll be maybe 5 to 10 years away when everything is done, but could someone else hook up on you're going to be able to sell this to someone else if they wanted to, or just for this project only? Very, very important to us, because that other one is going to be a long time coming here.
Very, very good point. The system that we're proposing is very scalable, so it can start small and grow big, and it's pretty much limitless. So we're definitely sizing it to handle the development, the size and scale, number of units and uses that we are proposing, but there's certainly no limit or reason why it could not grow to include neighboring properties. I'm sure there will be some physical limitations in terms of gravity flow and so on, but certainly, as you may be familiar, we are also part owner, half owner of the property just to the south, that commercial development with all the L's, Lowe's, Longos, LA Fitness, and LCBO. On there, so that is an opportunity to grow into that as a future phase potentially, and that could easily add to the system here. So I think to answer your question, yes, it can grow to I think whatever makes sense physically and engineering wise. Because
we wait for the other one to be a long wait. We've been waiting since 2019 and 2021 and then 2023. Now it's gone up. Forget about it. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Councillor Roy DeClemente, and then Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Mr. Aubry. I think I heard it. I just needed to clarify or hear it again. Did you say, or am I mistaken, that this project actually adheres to or meets the secondary planning documents that we already have in place?
It does, exactly. We developed our concept in conjunction with town staff through the development of the secondary plan for Yonge Green Lane. We always contemplated this level of development in terms of size, scale, and nature, and higher buildings to Yonge Street, lower buildings to the east. So it complies exactly. What we're talking about here is more an evolution of more the public realm, the spaces between the buildings, the vision of the community, the destination, and the sustainable infrastructural approach. So yes, it does comply with the secondary plan and the official plan, and we hope with the we can move forward to the next levels of approval once we get the sanitary sign off.
That in itself, Madam Mayor, is refreshing. I think that may also be a first for us, that we have an application that doesn't require an amendment to any of our policy documents. So thank you for that. And I do think that part of the way that you're going to get there is by having that public realm privately held. I think that that's an important component, because it doesn't put the onus on to the municipality to try and figure out how to program those public spaces that it's already being taken care of. Thank you. That's all for me for now.
Thank you. Councillor Foster, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I just want to reiterate, this is a very ambitious plan. And I think during our meeting the other day, Mr. Aubry, I said to you that it was kind of hard for me to swallow, for lack of a better term. But it does look great. Couple of things I wanted to mention, though. One of the words that I would like to hear going forward about this is affordable. And I understand we've got some rental housing in there that may fit that bill, but I'd like to hear some about some things that you're specifically thinking about regarding affordable housing. And I have another question after that one.
No, exactly. Affordable housing is going to be part of the discussion for sure. And some of the ways that we do beyond the policy is, most policies are specifically geared toward the rent level by comparison to the average market rent in the surrounding area. So that is obviously something that we will address through the subsequent phases of approval. But some of the things that we're doing beyond that are not so driven specifically by that policy is things like having rental options, high quality new rental buildings with a variety of different size suites to again track different types of people, different stages of their lives. But also some innovative ideas. One of the districts I did not show is what we call Artist Alley, which you may recall from the more longer presentation that was available. This is an area just within the same development, but just off to the side a little bit, which is a small pedestrian area with live-work units. Where one of our propositions here is to create an innovation center, which creates a very affordable startup for local craftspeople or innovative thinkers that create local products. And that could give them a leg up, and it could be for a period of time where they can live and have a storefront in this zone here for a period of time until they get established, and then they can move over to the more let's call it Main Street retailers. So it's a way to provide economic growth, sustainable living, and affordable living and working. So we're looking at a variety of different ways. So I think it's a multi-pronged approach to affordability. As I said, the actual ARR review will have to be part of the approval process. But again, creating bicycle infrastructure, creating connections to transit and so on is going to create other affordable aspects that are beyond just the rent and condo price, but also less reliance on the car, closer to community and services. By creating those health and wellness community bases within the community, there's less travel distance, so creating ease of kind of what those periphery costs that weigh everybody down. Access to clean, local, organic food, food security and costs. Obviously, it'd be almost like a 0-mile farmers market coming right from the site, so that can help with affordable for food. So we're looking at it as a multi-pronged approach, which is a bit unique.
Thank you. And if I can, Madam Mayor, just this is more of a comment than a question, because I don't expect to kind of pin you down on this one, Mr. Aubry, but I was kind of interested in the slide that says the dewatered sludge and dry filter cake is suitable for use as a fertilizer. And is that something that would be sold, or exactly how does that work? And again, maybe I can ask some questions of staff at a later date about this one, but I'm thinking here in York Region, a lot of that goes to landfill, and I don't think there's any land application that's used as fertilizer that way. So is that a sellable byproduct or that type of thing?
To answer your question, and this is something we're learning more and more about every day, but it probably doesn't have a large commercial viability. It's only because of the amount that's created. So that example that I showed in St. Thomas with 500 houses in it, it creates about a garbage bag worth of it a week. So it doesn't create a huge amount, like the amount of waste that's completely dry. It's remarkably small. So even with the scale and nature of our development, the amount that's created probably wouldn't be the volume that would have an alternative commercial viability, although we'll investigate it. But certainly when it talks to orchards and vineyards and so on, to create that restorative topsoil, that long-term sustainable soil system with root structures that can absorb rainwater and so on, that would be a very suitable use for that locally. So it doesn't have to be transported or settled. So we're investigating opportunities such as that. The only waste that's created, that's created is the things that are non-organic, things that are like plastics and so on. And it should be known that this system, unique to any public system that I'm aware of anyway, also filters out microplastics and pharmaceuticals. And that is pretty rare. So that's also a very exciting thing. So the only actual non-reusable waste that would have to go to a landfill are those microplastics and non-organic elements. And example, to continue using that St. Thomas reference, that 500 house community rather, it creates about 2 garbage bags of that a week. So that's a very small, surprising small, and a lot less than most households create in just regular household garbage.
Thank you. This is a really new concept, and I look forward to learning more about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Carruthers, go ahead, please.
Thank you. This is just so exciting. It's the type of responsible growth that I've been asking to see, and so exciting to see it on a plan now. The innovation, the fact that it's sustainable, it's walkable, it's not pumping into Lake Simcoe. It's certainly a huge step up from our sewage lagoons, that's for sure. 2 questions. What is the timing from the time you get all your approvals to full build out? What are you looking at? What the part that's in your control? How long is that piece?
Thank you very much for that question, Councillor Carruthers. It is a difficult question to ask. I can tell you where we'd like to start, and then we'll see where it goes. This is a large proposal, so it won't be done all at once, obviously. It will be done in phases. And we're thinking right now from a market construction kind of cost and servicing perspective, we're looking at about 600 suite chunks. So if you can imagine that, and in all those phases, we believe starting with the market square, the cultural food market as phase 1, and the buildings that surround that. And if all the approvals and the for both zoning and the technical approval for the sanitary system and others, we could be in the ground in 3 years and be operational about 3 years past that. So looking at about a 5 to 7 year window for seeing an absolute complete project should everything go smoothly, and then you'd see it sequentially build out from there. One of the advantages of doing it in a phased way is that we can innovate as we go. We can learn from what we're doing, because a lot of this is new territory. So as we experience it, we can adjust and modify it to go with it.
Thank you. That's wonderful. My second question is around monitoring. For if everything goes well, this is a great system, but we all know that things break, things don't go according to plan. How are you monitoring for groundwater contamination or spills? How does that all happen?
In a variety of different ways. So from a technological perspective, they have an ongoing, seamless, real-time review of the systems, how they're operating. So they can be shut down, it could be modified, it can be adjusted on the fly remotely. It doesn't have to happen. You don't have to have somebody there staring at it all day long. But there is regular, weekly maintenance and ongoing work. So that can happen very easily, and it foresees any issues that are happening. So if it sees that something's not operating, it'll give the warning so you can adjust. So it doesn't wait till something goes really wrong to give you a warning. So using this advanced proprietary, again, Canadian design technology, it allows for a very active and proactive approach to monitoring. The second thing is, say long term, the operator is not pulling their weight. They're falling short on it. What I've heard traditionally what happens, because this is within the realm of the region. So the region of York will secure some funds as deposit. If they have to step in, for short-term or long-term, they'll have the funds available to step in and take control as a stopgap measure. I don't know if they've ever had to do that, but I think that's just a way to provide a bit of security and assurance that if this thing falls into disrepair or misuse, that there is a backstop for that.
Thank you. I think that those type of assurances go a long ways when this is the first of this type that we're looking at. But thank you so much. And let's hope that this encourages our other developers to step up their game. It's very, very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Roy DeClemente, go ahead, please.
No, I didn't have any further questions. Sorry.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from members of committee at this time? I had a couple just to follow along with the numbers and how you are going to phase them in. Fully built out, what kind of population would we be looking at on this site?
In the zone that we've been highlighting today, we're looking at a little under 3,000 units of development. I say both in the kind of high and mid-rise and grade-related typologies. And that represents, obviously it fluctuates a little bit based on the size of the unit, but that's a little over 6,000 people in terms of population numbers. Utilizing the kind of generally accepted regional numbers based on the number of units.
And following the 6,000 being fully built out, the next phase or phases, how do you see them moving forward?
Beyond the areas that I showed or within it?
Yes.
Oh, beyond. Well, we only have one other area that's not part of the secondary plan, which is about a 20-acre piece just north of what is referred to as the East-West Collector Road. And that we definitely see as being smaller in scale, more single-family home oriented, more grade-related typology there. Beyond that, as I was kind of referring to, the property to the south being a traditional retail center, because that's now in private ownership with us. We do have a partner in there, as you know. So that would be an opportunity that, if building on the success of what we've created, that could grow into that area too. So obviously the population would adjust to that. And of course, the broader secondary plan, which spans from Bathurst to Leslie Street, has its own population growth projections as well.
Thank you very much, and I thank you for being very creative. You and your partners have worked very hard to come up with something that's very different, and that's what we're looking for. East Gwillimbury, and many times has been a leader in new innovative ideas, and this one certainly is very exciting. Something that, as many members of council have said, that we're looking for something that is sustainable and long-term, and it seems to me that there are check boxes in several places. So thank you. I just will ask one more time if there's any other members of council that want to speak. Oh, Councillor Persicini, go ahead, and Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you very much, Mayor. When you say 6,000 people, I was thinking traffic-wise, are they going to build roads that takes people out of there, or to be all congested? That's the biggest concern. Always been in the whole York region, is after we build something, we have a traffic problems, and it's always been, it'll always probably be there. But how are we going to eliminate these 6,000 people? Is it plans to build the roads first that can go all the way down to the second? Does it go right down to the second, so we eliminate the traffic? Because eventually I heard that we're going to get from Morningside, the roads are going to go all the way down to the second in the future. How are we going to get some of this traffic flow? How are you going to flow that traffic? That's the only thing. Just curious, unless you make some magic, tricks up your sleeve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Persicini. So a number of responses there. So first, I would say from a regulatory perspective, the Yonge Green Lane secondary plan does anticipate the provincial reviewed population growth densities that are anticipated in the town. I'm sure staff can provide more flavor to that in terms of the population that's expected within this growth area. And we obviously have to work within that framework. But in terms of moving people around, that secondary plan does anticipate a traffic network in different higher orders of magnitude from collector and local roads. So the green lane itself is, I think, redesigned for more efficient traffic movement over time. The east-west collector, which runs parallel to Green Lane that connects Bathurst and Leslie Street, will also take on a large amount of traffic opportunities. And locally, we have to have enough to be able to move people around. So I think the transportation network, including what's happening close by, Yonge Street south of Green Lane to Davis Drive is being redeveloped. I think they're tendering it as we speak. And one of the purposes for that is to create better transit system, but also to improve the traffic system and the cadence of signalized intersections and so on. We all know that's a very difficult stretch of regional road locally close by. So I think the improvements that are going to be seen there to the other infrastructural networks and transportation networks will help. But ultimately, what we're trying to do too is reduce the reliance on the car completely by people that live here. They won't need to get into a car to do a variety of their day-to-day activities, including potentially going to work. So I think by creating this multifaceted community, people that come here and visit here won't be so inclined to move around by car. It'll be connected to transit and bike networks. Our goal here is that you can pretty much bike to Sharon from here without leaving a trail. So there's other alternatives. That doesn't mean there won't be traffic. We're not naive to say that there will be no cars. But one of our concepts is that parking infrastructure can transition over time. Because we know certainly within the first few phases, this is still going to be a car reliant community. And some of the parking garages, that's the ones that are along Yonge Street that are on podiums, they're above grade for a reason. So they create that rooftop for agriculture, but also they create a parking structure that doesn't have to be parking forever. It can be something else. So as parking demand wanes, that can turn into greater commercial spaces or more indoor agricultural opportunities. So we see a future life for that, meeting current demands, but able to adapt for future needs. So I hope that answers your question. But beyond to say that as we go through the more detailed approval processes, master transportation plans will have to be reviewed, prepared, reviewed, and approved. So the traffic will be a key element as we go through this process over time.
Thank you.
And Councillor Persichini, this will be a partnership with the region of York. They provide our servicing, and certainly on those corners provide our roads and services in that regard as well. So they will certainly be a part of it at the very beginning to make sure that the roads are addressed as well as the servicing. So. Thank you. Councillor Roy DiClemente, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate the second round thought. Mr. Aubry, I thought you were going to answer Councillor Persichini's question with flying cars and Star Trek transporters, but
that's later.
So it's either Star Trek or the Jetsons. I'm not sure which, but no. Further to Mayor Haxon's question about the number of people who will be living here, obviously a big piece of your proposal has that quality of life end to end. Live-work balance. Do you have a sense of how many jobs would be also located in this area? Obviously, you've got employment to the south in your quadruple L plaza, but I'm just thinking that you talked about live-work and especially in your Artists Alley. How many jobs do you think would be here as well?
It's an excellent question. I don't currently have the answer, but we're working on. We are in the process. We've engaged KPMG to do an economic benefit analysis of this development for the local and regional economies. And we're hoping to get some numbers from them, but there'll be a variety of different opportunities. Obviously, in the short term, construction, which, as we all know, construction brings in a lot of jobs, but that's a temporary uptick in employment. We're looking at the long term employment. So obviously we have all those retail, commercial outlets, restaurants, and so on, which create a lot of job opportunities. But in terms of other ones, you refer to, thankfully, the fact that the public realm, the streets and the plazas are going to be privately owned and operated and programmed in terms of activities and community events and so on. That's going to create for our company, a large staff component just to maintain that, just maintaining the landscaping and all those public space and requirements is going to be onerous, and it's going to require quite a lot of people to do so. So, I'm not sure the exact numbers, but they're going to be quite impressive. And that goes beyond, we're also looking at engaging with post-secondary institutions for partnerships and research opportunities and long-term presence. It's obviously early stages and I can't reveal those here, but we are looking for longer-term commercial institutional partners that would take presence here. So it would create a big employment hub here, as well as creating different uses different times of the day. So, when you have some commercial office spaces that people are there, Monday to Friday, 5 days a week, kind of during the day. And then when people come home, they're there at night. So we're trying to create that balance of use and demand to support the commercial retail. So there's a long way of saying I'm looking into it, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Aubry? I'm not seeing any. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Persuccini, Councillor Roy DiClemente. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you so much. You've spurred some imagination in all of us today, and I'm sure that weeks from now there'll be questions, and moving forward, I know that we'll be very anxiously waiting. So thank you very much. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, all of council and staff. Look forward to continue working with you in this exciting project. Take care and have a great day. Thank you.
I'm now looking at our agenda with adoption of minutes at item H1, and this is to adopt the council minutes from a special meeting held on January 12th, 2022. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Morton, Councillor Foster, all those in favor? And that's carried. And the next item that we're on is finance, and that is a presentation that we have at this time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. We do have a brief presentation for you. Kirsten Dax, the manager of development finance, will be stepping you through an update on the proposed development charge bylaw amendment. Although this amendment is scoped, it is a fairly significant amendment, as not only does it align us with provincial legislation, but it also helps ensure that we have sufficient funding available to fund some of our key infrastructure projects, in particular the Health and Active Living Plaza. So before I turn the presentation over to Kirsten, I'd just like to thank her and her team consisting of Chelsea Hoover, who is Development Charge Finance Analyst, for their efforts in turning this around in such a condensed time frame, which is pretty rare in terms of development charge bylaw amendments. So I'd like to thank them for their efforts in getting this to you within a couple of months. So with that, Madam Mayor, I'll turn the presentation over to Ms. Dax.
Thank you.
Treasurer Marshall, and good morning, Madam Mayor and members of council. Tara, I'll take the next slide, please. The DC bylaw that is currently in effect was approved in 2019 with a 5-year term. It expires May 22nd, 2024. A full update will be required prior to this time. However, there are a few things that have caused the town to initiate an amendment to the background study and bylaw at this time. Costs included in the current background study were based on 2018 estimates and includes approximately $40 million for construction of the Health and Active Living Plaza. Detailed design work and issues related to the pandemic have significantly increased this estimate. A $5 million construction project for a new fire hall was included in the background study in the year 2028. The 2028 construction timeframe falls just outside of the 10-year forecast, meaning that DCs are not being collected for the facility. Legislated changes to the Development Charges Act were enacted in September 2020 and need to be implemented by September 2022. So this created a need to adjust the bylaw outside of the regulated 5-year cycle. Next slide, please. So although the timing for the amendment was compressed, the process to amend the background study and bylaws was collaborative and consultative. We started work on this project in late October, and we engaged stakeholders at the beginning of November. A developer working group was formed consisting of representatives from the development community. Staff connected with the working group in December and January and received no comments. The DC Act requires us to hold at least one public meeting, which we did on December 7th. Under the Development Charges Act, Council must state whether another public meeting is required. Based on the feedback received to date, we are recommending that no further public meetings are required. Next slide, please. So this amendment focuses on 3 areas. The amendment to the background study includes a revised cost for the Health and Active Living Plaza, now noted at $68.3 million, as we previously reported to Council, and advanced timing for the fire hall construction to 2027, which falls within the 10-year forecast of the background study. This allows us to start collecting for the eventual construction of the facility. Legislated updates required by Bills 108, 138, and 197 require elimination of the 10% mandatory deduction and parking development charge. There were also legislated changes to timing of payments that are reflected in the proposed background study amendment. Next slide, please. The bylaw was also impacted by the legislated changes. Municipal parking needs to be removed as it's no longer an eligible service under the Development Charges Act. New wording that was added regarding timing of payments for rental housing, institutional and nonprofit housing development, which allows for the payment of development charges in annual installments between 6 to 21 years. And definitions have been added for the terms nonprofit housing development and rental housing. Payment timing was revised for planning approvals. Development charge rates for all developments occurring within 2 years of a site plan or zoning bylaw amendment planning approval will be determined based on the DC rate in effect on the day of site plan or zoning bylaw amendment application. If the development's not proceeding through these planning approvals, the amount is determined as the earlier date of either the issuance of a building permit or occupancy. Next slide, please. This is a chart of the proposed development charge rates that will come from the amendment. The rates tabled at the public meeting in December have been indexed at 9.4%, as most municipalities have done based on construction CPI. The current single-family dwelling rate in East Gwillimbury is $39,302. This amendment brings the unit rate to $47,344, so that represents a 20% increase. Retail rates are proposed to increase 6% and non-retail at 8%. Next slide, please. This graph shows a jurisdictional scan of the development charges for a single detached unit in York Region. So the graph shows that East Gwillimbury's rates would be at the higher end within York Region. But note that only half of the municipalities in York Region have completed their amendment studies to incorporate the legislated changes. So this ranking could change during the year. Next slide, please. If Council should approve the amendment study and bylaw during this session, the rates presented will become effective immediately. The final step is for staff to publish a notice of amendment approval in the newspaper and online. The proposed published date is February 10th. So this concludes my presentation, and I thank you for your time. Treasurer Marshall and I will welcome any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions? Councillor Foster, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Mr. Marshall, maybe you can just refresh my memory. I'm sure we've talked about this before. If there's a specific project that we are collecting DC for, development charges for, and that doesn't happen for a number of years due to, development slowdown, any number of things, how does that particularly work? So if we've been collecting development charges for a specific project within a 10-year window and it simply doesn't happen, what do we do with that money? How does it set aside for that specific project, or how does that work?
Sure. So through you, Madam Mayor. We do, we're legislatively required to do updates at least every 5 years to our background study and bylaw. So if a project hasn't happened within that period, when we do an update to the bylaw, if we're intending to still continue on with that project, that will end up in the bylaw for the next time, and the money that we've collected will go towards that. If for some reason we've decided not to do that project, that money is reflected in the reserve balance, and it's deducted from the requirements for your next bylaw. So if you needed $1 million for your next 5-year plan, and you've collected 500,000 for that project, that gets deducted from that million, so you can only collect 500,000 in your next term of your bylaw.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions at this time? I'm not seeing any. Thank you, Ms. Dash. That was well done. That was your first presentation with us, I think. Thank you. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Persicini, Councillor Crone. Be it resolved that finance presentation dated February 1st, 2022, entitled 2019 Development Charges Background Study Amendment, be received, and that finance report FIN 2022-01 dated February 1st, 2022, entitled Amendment to the 2019 Development Charge Background Study and Bylaw be received, and that Council approve the Development Charge Bylaw Amendment Background Study published November 18th, 2021, revised November 26th, 2021, and that the proposed amendments as contained in the background study that have been used in the calculation of the development charge rates be approved, and that Council confirms that it intends that the amendments identified in the development charge bylaw amendment background study shall be paid for by development charges or other similar charges, and that Council has determined no further public meetings are required under Section 9 of the Development Charges Act, and that Council enact the amendment to the town-wide development charge bylaw effective February 1st, 2022. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Are there other items under finance at this time?
Through you, Madam Mayor, no other items, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? I'm not seeing any. We will move along to item J, and that's development services. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. The one item from Development Services is the memo relating to a part lot control exemption bylaw, and this deals with the 14 semi-detached units in the community of Mount Albert on Frederick Taylor Way to allow those units to be subdivided and sold. And those units are currently under construction as part of that original phase of the Oxford Homes subdivision.
Questions? I'm not seeing any at this time. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Morton, Councillor Crone. Be it resolved that Development Services Memorandum dated February 1st, 2022, entitled Part Lot Control Exemption Bylaw Oxford Subdivision Phase 1 be received. All those in favor? And that's carried. Are there any other items at this time under Development Services?
Nothing further, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of Council, any other questions under Development Services? I'm not seeing any. We'll move along now to Administration, and we have a verbal update. So we'll go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Some good news. Under our modernization program that we've been working at over the last several years, we have established an advisory task force made up of key staff. And we recently submitted further requests for some modernization initiatives. And we were very fortunate. Just last week, through your office, Madam Mayor, we received notification that our projects that were submitted were successful. In addition to the ones listed in the letter attached, we also received funding for the Joint Emergency Services Review with the town of Georgina. And I thought maybe it would be best at this time to have Treasurer Marshall just to summarize some of the recent grants. I don't know, we've had so many of them. I don't know if they've all actually made it to council. So I'll pass it over to Mr. Marshall, and also Mr. Valchich, who heads up our modernization initiatives, is here for any questions that council or comments may have. So maybe we'll pass it to Treasurer Marshall at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. Through you, Madam Mayor, this is a summary of the recent announcements on grant funding that we've received in the last basically month and a half, I would say. The first three were, as Mr. Webster had indicated, are under the Municipal Modernization Program. The two of them, the first two, were coordinated through the town through the Business Solutions Advisory Team that Mr. Valchich is sponsoring, and is the chair of the committee is Denny Boskowski, who helped coordinate the submission. The two grants under the implementation program were eligible for 65% funding, and we had budgeted to receive those, and those projects were included in the 2022 budget, and we did receive confirmation on the 65% funding for those. One is for the digitizing our operational forms to make sure that they are in AODA compliance and to help our internal processes. The other one was a vehicle tracking dashboard, which will enable us to provide live tracking of our plows and equipment, which will help us with our operations as well. The final one that was done in conjunction with the town of Georgina and led by Georgina was for the Joint Fire Services Review, which is looking at opportunities to either have consolidated or shared services, fire services with the town of Georgina. Under a different program, which is the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, which is a joint federal provincial program, we had applied for a grant to help us improve and remediate some of our water mains that are reaching the end of their service life. The design component of those costs are not eligible for grant funding. So in 2022, there was a project approved for us to go ahead with that design, but the construction, we're eligible for up to 70% of costs to be funded through this grant. And it's a joint approval process. So the province has announced that we have gone through and they have approved us receiving the grant. And now we're just waiting for the federal government to come through with their approval. But that could get us up to $3.6 million in grant funding. So those are the ones that have come through recently.
Are there any questions? Well, congratulations. That's quite remarkable. Not surprising with our staff, but quite significant for a smaller community. Thank you very much. Questions? Councillor Persichini.
Not a question, but just that's good news. It's great work and all our staff, and I'm really, I can't believe it. It's so great to see that the support that we're getting. So, but someone had to do the background work. So, congratulations to all the people that did the background work. This is amazing, good news. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? I'm not seeing any at this time. We have a motion. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Crothers, Councillor Persichini. Be it resolved that administration verbal update dated February 1st, 2022, entitled Municipal Modernization Program Grant Funding be received. All those in favor? And that's carried. And Mr. Marshall and Mr. Valchik, please convey our sincere thanks to all the staff that have a knack in writing grant applications we really appreciate it, and they are certainly are recognized for their skill set. So thank you very much. Is there anything else in administration at this time?
Actually, I do have an update, Madam Mayor. So quite often I don't, but this is an important one. So, and it's timely. Just yesterday, Madam Mayor and myself had the opportunity to have a meeting with Chair Emerson and CAO McGregor on a number of matters. And at that meeting, it was discussed that both Chair Emerson and CAO McGregor had been approached regarding the York Region Wastewater Act that was passed by the province in 2021. The province has appointed an expert independent panel. And what we were able to find out, the person has reached out to Mayor Haxon as of yesterday afternoon as well, is that the chair of the panel will be Mitch Zamich. For those that would like to Google him, last spelling of his last name is Z-A-M-O-J-C. He's the former Commissioner of Public Works for both Peel Region and Halton Region. He's a very credible person to be identified as both of those regions, and particularly Halton, struggled through infrastructure challenges for their growth areas in Milton and others. There will be 4 other appointees on this panel of 5. They are proposing to be very engaged with both the region, the town, and all stakeholder groups. And our understanding as of yesterday's update is that the target timing for their independent review would be sometime towards mid-year or towards Q3 of this calendar year. So we should stay tuned. It's very positive news that this delay in consideration of the Upper York sewage system or alternatives has been in a quagmire for close to a decade, and it's really positive to see this arise. In the absence of a provincial decision, I think we will be seeing a lot more of the proposals such as we did from Redwood today. And what you're starting to see is landowners and developers looking for other innovative, sustainable, environmentally suitable solutions in the absence of a municipal system. And so we look forward to that. And clearly, Madam Mayor did make it clear that the decommissioning of the lagoons remains a top priority for this council in the process. So I thought, Madam Mayor, it would be timely. I apologize it's not in writing, but we found this information out just yesterday mid-morning, and we can provide an update in writing to council for the public record once we find out a little bit more of the details of the panel and their purpose and objectives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. I did meet, as Mr. Webster has indicated, and was very impressed with the gentleman that I met with, the credentials that he had. And I think for me, more importantly, the understanding that he had for the situation that East Gwillimbury is in right now. So I look forward to hearing from him again. He indicated that he would keep us up to date. But in the meantime, they're going to be meeting, and as Mr. Webster had indicated, the members of the panel have not been, if they have been retained, they have not shared yet who they are. So I think they're still in the process of appointing the individuals for that committee. So we'll stay tuned. I don't have any. Sorry, Lorley, go ahead.
Thank you. To Mr. Webster's comment about the lagoons remaining a top priority, and in light of the presentation that we just had, it would be nice to suggest a solution like that to replace lagoons if we are not going to be getting an Upper York type solution anytime soon. It sounds like it's scalable and very portable, and it'd be a great opportunity to try it out here in East Gwillimbury with those lagoons. So I just want to put that out there for your future conversations with them. If it doesn't look like we're going to be able to decommission those with an Upper York solution within the next few years, perhaps we can suggest that. I'm not sure what the cost is, but it sounded like it was affordable. So just an idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carruthers. I did the site visit to St. Thomas a few weeks ago to actually see this facility in operation. And the first thing that I thought of when they had 500 homes on it, the first thing I thought of was decommissioning the lagoons. I can tell you that there were several people on that tour, and every one of them left knowing where the lagoon was, what the problem was, and what was the priority of East Gwillimbury. So I was really pleased to be invited to go on the tour, but more excited to see the application, and there was no doubt in my mind that it would be applicable to the lagoon. So
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I'm not seeing any at this time. And so we will move on to corporate services.
Madam Mayor, there's nothing on the corporate services section of the agenda today, and I don't have anything further to add at this point, but happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Velchik? Seeing none, we will move along to item M, and that's Community Parks, Recreation and Culture. And we have one report here, and Mr. Carmison, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. This is a report in follow-up to two requests for fee exemptions. The recommendations from staff are in the report and relate to each request that has been provided in the report. Additionally, staff are requesting that council refer future requests to staff for review with the 2019 council approved exemption policy. I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Questions for Mr. Carmison? I'm not seeing any at this time. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Persichini, Councillor Morton, thank you. Be it resolved that Community Parks, Recreation and Culture Report, CPRC 2022-01, dated February 1st, 2022, entitled Permitting Exemption Request be received, and that council approve a one-year fee exemption request for St. John's Ambulance not to exceed the limits outlined in report CPRC 2022-01, and that council requests staff to report back with information regarding extension to the fee exemption in partnership with St. John Ambulance in 2023, and that council requests that staff to further review with research a partnership opportunity with Life with a Baby once the Health and Active Living Plaza is completed, and that council requests staff continue to review all future requests based on council approved policy. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. I'm not seeing anything else under Community Parks, Recreation and Culture. Mr. Carmison, do you have anything else at this time?
Through you, Madam Mayor, nothing further at this time.
Thank you. Anything from members of council? I'm not seeing any. We will move to Community Infrastructure and Environmental Services. There are no reports at this time. Are there any questions of Mr. Molyneux? Or sorry, I'm looking at go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no items on the agenda today, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? I'm not seeing any. Thank you very much. We'll move along to Emergency and Community Safety Services. We have the chief, I believe, with us. Morning, Chief.
Morning, Your Honor. Again, nothing on the agenda, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions of the chief? I'm not seeing any. Thank you very much. Move to item P, and that's legal and counsel support services. We do have one report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just some good news on the staffing front, and I'll ask Madam Clerk to do the honors, please.
Thank you, General Manager Horner. Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm pleased to announce that we have recently been able to add 2 new key team members to join our clerk's branch. I believe the announcement was actually distributed to members of council and staff last week, but I did want to put a face to a name. So I've asked my team to join the call and turn their cameras on. To start, I'm just going to wait and see if the cameras are on. Let's just double check that. Wonderful. Andrew, Mateen, are you guys on?
I'm on.
Wonderful. I can hear them. So to start, I would like to introduce Andrew Walkham as our new Deputy Clerk and Manager of Legislative Services. Andrew has over 6 years of municipal experience working within the clerk's office and has joined us from the town of Newmarket, where he recently worked as a legislative coordinator. And secondly, I would like to introduce Mateen Monzavi as our elections coordinator. Mateen has had a variety of different experiences working for the federal, provincial, and municipal elections. Most recently, he has been a central poll supervisor for Elections Ontario, and prior to that, Mateen acted as an assistant returning officer for the 2020 municipal by-election in municipality of Sioux Lookout, where he administered voting technologies and implemented legislative requirements. Through you, Madam Mayor, this concludes my update. Happy to answer any questions or take any comments, and just wanted to do an introduction of our team.
Nothing else on the agenda, Madam Mayor, but very happy to take any questions. And very pleased to have the full complement in clerk's office as we gear up for the election. So we're all very excited.
I was muted. Go ahead, Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a brief request, I guess. I don't know if members of council are aware. The MTO has extended drivers testing into the parking lot at our GO station, which is a great thing at trying to clear some of the backlog. Challenge has become that there are a fair number of driving schools that are using the roads up Morel Boulevard and into Sharon Village to do driver instruction. And so it's starting to become disruptive to local residents as new drivers are learning to parallel park and do 3-point turns and navigate our local road network. What I wanted to request or inquire about was the status of any kind of permitting or operational requirements that these schools must have. So I noticed that some of them have licenses for other municipalities that are on their vehicles, but I don't think that we have a permitting regime in place. And it seemed to me that this might be an opportunity for a bit of revenue and to offset some of that cost, or at least disruption to our local residents, to know that we're at least collecting some revenue on this. So I just wanted to get the ball rolling. It's not an urgent matter, but it's certainly having an impact in a little corner of Ward 2. And I just wanted to bring that to our attention. It's not that I necessarily want us to stop it, but if we can regulate it and help shape it, then that might be helpful to all concerned. I don't know if we need to do a motion or if I'm just happy to give direction as well. I'm just raising it at this point as an issue.
Thank you. Mr. Horner?
I frankly wasn't aware that we had concerns in the community about driving schools, but I have become aware that Newmarket regulates, Aurora regulates, and that residents are expressing concerns to council. So, I mean, very reasonable for us to take this and examine the issues, look at options, and come back to council with a report and some recommendations. So we'll certainly very happy to add this to the work plan and see how others are dealing with the issue.
Thank you, Mr. Horner.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, comments? Could I have a motion for the update from Legal and Counsel Support Services, please? Councillor Roy DiClemente, Councillor Crone. Be it resolved that Legal and Counsel Support Services verbal update dated February 1st, 2022 regarding the introduction of Andrew Walkham, Deputy Clerk, be received. All those in favor? And that's carried. We are at item Q, and that's correspondence for consideration. Any questions, comments regarding correspondence that we've received? Councillor Foster, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to make mention that I was a little dismayed at a couple of the things that were in this. Page 5 of the letter indicates that the survey of the property to determine if archaeological resources are present or not. The or not part bothers me. There's already been studies done and proven that there are artifacts there. Just a little dismayed at the fact that the province still tries to make us and everyone else believe that there may not be. That's all.
Thank you. Councillor Carruthers, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I think it's great that they're doing all these studies, but I just want to make sure that we follow up to see what the studies show, because there doesn't seem to be a commitment to, for say, alter the route if they find something. So I just want to make sure that we stay on top of this. And great that they're doing the studies, but let's make sure that we see the studies and understand the impacts of the studies, and so that we can provide some feedback if we think a route change is necessary due to what the studies find.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? I'm not seeing any at this time.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, please, Mr. Webster.
Yeah. We had a little glitch with the microphones there for a minute. I don't think anyone was on mute, but it was muted. So hopefully that is just temporary. It was just towards the tail end of your comments, Councillor Carruthers. The General Manager Molinari has an update regarding this. There has been an outreach by MTO for some ongoing stakeholder consultation, and there was a session just recently. So I think that those conversations and discussions will hopefully add to some of the answers that council is looking for. So maybe General Manager Molinari, you could provide an update.
Certainly, CEO Webster. So yes, we did meet with a fairly large group. They're known as the Municipal Advisory Group, and it consists of a number of municipalities and various positions within the municipality. It was a fairly large and well-attended meeting, and at that meeting there's basically a lot of discussion with regards to the studies that are being completed, the design that's underway, and how that design is impacting the local community. And it provides a great means of being able to make sure that the MTO is aware of some of the local concerns as they proceed through the EA. To make sure that that we can flag those so that they can be addressed through the process. And I was really pleased to see that there was that type of engagement coming through. And I think the other large important piece is the MTO committed to looking at the interchange at Second Concession. And that was the first time, although we had asked for it in the past, it was the first time it really recognized that they're taking that seriously, and it's actually one of the items that they're, subject to them completing some of their background work on feasibility for that. It is a very likely possibility that second concession interchange will actually take place. So we look forward to continuing some of those discussions with the MTO and the other municipalities, and shaping this project so that it is on the best alignment, and it does respect all of the environmental features that it has to go through in order to be implemented. So that's basically what we wanted to share with council today, and happy to answer any questions with regards to that.
Thank you, Mr. Molinari. Questions? Councillor Roy D. Clemente, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just further to the other issues that have been raised, I would like to keep hearing some updates as far as the trail connectivity and the trails infrastructure that they have been promoting, and how that might fit in with the stuff that's happening in Bradford, and how we might be able to take advantage of that. So just I know that it's still early days, but I didn't want to lose sight of that as well, because it's one thing that could be pretty important to us from an infrastructure perspective and an active transportation goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? I'm not seeing any at this time. Mr. Molinari, you may have council members who later today or later next week start to think about some issues in this area, and it seems that you're somewhat the point person for us.
Happy to take it, any of those questions, Madam Mayor. And we do have a fairly extensive staff team that's involved with these meetings. So lots of representation.
Thank you very much. With that, could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Morton, Councillor Crone. Be it resolved that correspondence from M.S. McGuinness, PNG, Director, Design and Engineering Branch, Ontario Ministry of Transportation, dated January 12, 2022, regarding the Bradford Bypass Project be received, and that the correspondence be referred back to staff. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of our public portion of our agenda today. We will now move into our closed session to proceed into a closed meeting of Municipal Council. Be it resolved that Council proceed into a closed meeting of Municipal Council at 11:36 to deal with the following matters: personal matter about identifiable individuals, Municipal Act Section 2392B, personal matters and council appointment committee update, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality, Municipal Act Section 2392C, real estate transaction. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Roy D. Clemente, Councillor Crone, all those in favor, and that's carried. We'll take a couple of minutes or less maybe to switch
And we're live.
And we're live. Just let me get my board here. We have no resolutions at this time. Item S. Item T, we have 1, 2, 3 bylaws. Madam Clerk.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we just need to rise and report from closed meeting of council in open session. So if we can have a mover and seconder for that.
Thank you. Councillor Persicini. Councillor Crone. Be it resolved that council rise and report from the closed meeting at 1:16 p.m. and that council endorse all directions provided to staff at the closed meeting of Municipal Council held on February 22nd. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We have no resolutions. Now we have bylaws. Go ahead, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we do have an additional bylaw. This is simply in reference to appointing a member to our Accessibility Advisory Committee. So you have bylaw 2022-004, appointment of a deputy clerk, bylaw 2022-005, being a bylaw to amend 2019-0063 townwide development charges, bylaw 2022-006 being a bylaw to exempt certain lands from the potluck control. This is in relation to item J1 on the agenda. And the new bylaw is 2022-010 being a bylaw to appoint an Accessibility Advisory Committee member. So that's the additional bylaw that's been added to today's agenda.
Thank you. Could I have a mover and seconder for that, please? Councillor Morton, Councillor Persicini, all those in favor? That's carried. We have other business and we have a workshop for March 22nd, special council workshop at 10 a.m. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Crone, Councillor Foster, be it resolved that a special council workshop meeting be held on March 22nd, 2022 at 10 a.m. All those in favor? And that's carried. And we have a confirming bylaw. Be it resolved that bylaw 2022-007 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council meeting held on February 1st, 2022 be taken as read and acted, signed by the mayor and municipal clerk. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Morton, Councillor Carruthers, all those in favor? And that's carried. And an adjournment at 1:17. Moved by Councillor Roy DeClemente, seconded by Councillor Foster. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. We've covered a lot of ground today. Appreciate your support and take the rest of the day off.
Thanks. You guys have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.